I'm going to give a short 15-minute talk in which I'm going to present the new extension I recently created. In a bunch of cases, you might want to watch like structured data in your wiki, and well, keep only track of your structured data, like not all data. Like native MediaWiki offers a watching functionality. You can watch a page, and if then somebody changes it, it will show up in your watch list. And then you can go look at the div and see all the changes that were made. But for example, if you have a wiki about, let's say, auctions, and you have a category with items you auction and they have a price, you might be more interested if somebody changes that than some stuff in the description, like more critical data. So you might then also only be interested in specific properties, in specific categories, or in specific namespaces. So you also want to be able to just watch these and not just all structured data on a certain page. And on top of being able to watch these changes in your wiki and like a watch list, you also might be interested in getting email notifications. There are already a bunch of existing tools that address various aspects of this problem, but I don't think there is one that does it all in a way that I think is really useful. So the first one is obviously the MediaWiki watchlist itself. You can watch pages, but not structured data. Then there's an extension called Semantic Notifications and one Semantic Notify Me. These both allow you to watch changes to queries, which is nice, but I think it's nicer to watch changes to your actual data instead of having to run the queries. So when you do an edit, that you immediately get like things showing up in your watch list. Also, of course, both these extensions only allow email notifications and don't actually have a watch list. So that's why I decided to create a new extension called Semantic Watchlist that like has all these things. It basically has four major components. The first one is a sort of administrative interface in which you can define certain groups of things you want to watch. Because, for example, with the auction sites, you might want to watch all auction items, and for that you might want to watch the price and some other properties. You don't want every user to go like specify these kind of things. So then you can define like a watchlist condition, it's called, which then specifies this category, these properties, or this namespace, and then people can just pick which watchlist conditions they want to have shown up in their watchlist. This can all be done chosen via user preferences. The extension hooks into the MediaWiki preferences menu, so you can change it there. Then, of course, you have a page, which is the watchlist itself, on which you can see all the changes to the semantic data, which works very much the same as the native MediaWiki watchlist. And the email notifications if you enable it for yourself, so you get an actual notification in your inbox when somebody changes something you care about. So let's have a quick look at these four components. This is a screenshot of the administrative interface in which you can define watchlist conditions. As you can see, you can specify name. You can filter on things in categories, namespaces, and something else that I forgot. And then you can list the Oh yes, you can also check all pages in the concept. And then you can specify a list of properties. Then if you go to your user preferences, the semantic watchlist tab will show up. where you can choose if you want to get email notifications, and then also a list of available watchlist conditions will show up, which is here one that's called meetings, which then also lists what it does. And you just check it and save it, and then these things will show up in your watch list. So this is an example. Yeah, that's the watch list. It shows per edit, the page, and then a list of properties, and for each property what was added and what was removed. This is then an example of an email, which basically shows the same data but then emailed to you, with the links to the things you care about, of course. A little bit of background on how I got to create this extension. I developed it as part of WikiWorks, which is a MediaWiki consulting company focusing on semantic MediaWiki for the IEEE. So a lot of thanks to them for funding it. It's released under the GPL, so everybody can use it. The code is in the Wikimedia repository, so you can get it. You can make changes to it, whatever you like. It's pretty recent. I created it around July, and it's currently at version 0.1. It's still in beta. It basically works, but there are still places where you might want to do more usability tweaks, refine the interface. At the moment, it's still a bit rough at some places, but it works. So I really would appreciate if people could try it out, tell me what the issues are so they can be taken care of, and tell me what other kind of features would make sense in this. Ah, yes, I wanted to have a picture of a kitten in the presentation. So the requirements for the extension. Well, I wrote the extension after MediaWiki 1.17 came out. Well, it was already out a few months, so I decided to take care of all the new awesomeness in it, especially the new resource loader, which allows you to add JavaScript and CSS and other resources and get them loaded into pages a lot faster than you would when you do it with the regular system. I think Jeroen will give a talk or a lightning talk about that tomorrow or today, so definitely check out the schedule if you're interested in the details. It also makes use of Semantic MediaWiki 1.6 or later. This is because I added in a thing that, it makes use of the new data item things in Semantic MediaWiki, but that's technical. Also, you need PHP 5.2 or later, and MySQL currently no support for Postgres and the like. That was basically it. I forgot one point. The extension also has an API and a bunch of hooks. I created it keeping in mind that this is something that's really important for workflow, that you might want to hook things into, so it's really extendable. If you try something out and the API is not exactly what you would expect it, what you would want it to do, or you have suggestions for change there, definitely let me know. But the API is also used internally, so it should work. So questions?
So in a public wiki, I might expect, for example, that someone changes the value of a property, and a few moments later, a few minutes later, someone changes it back because it was wrong, or was spammed over there. Or even just blanking out the whole page with such a spam and putting it back up. With the email notification, would this mean you get an email every time such a page is being blanked? Or do you have, you're waiting for a time to see if it's actually conciliated?
The notifications, like per email, and it's showing up on your watch list, happens immediately. So if you change it to something and then change it back, then you will get 2 notifications. I did implement some setting that allows you to limit the amount of emails you get until you visit your watch list. I also did some other limits there, but by default they are turned off because you might want to know about everything that changes. Also on your watch list itself, you'll be able to see the new items you have not reviewed, and they will be marked with new, and once you reload it, then they will be marked as new. Yes?
For the normal email notification about changes to wiki pages, the default setting is that you will get one email when the page changes, and no more emails until you visit that page again. That would probably be a sensible default for this tool. Maybe we could even reuse the same mechanism.
Yes. Well, basically, I did implement something like that, like I just said, but it's turned off by default. That was because of requirement by the client. But I mean, it's one setting, you can easily change it. So. Well,
it's not the same as saying I only want to get 5 mails until I visit my watch list again, because then I may miss changes to other pages.
Yes, yeah, indeed. It's now implemented by going to the watch list, so it's a good idea to do it on page basis. Likewise, at the moment, it's not possible to, like in MediaWiki, to just watch a page for structured data. That would also be a cool feature that I think might be nice to do in the future.
So, I think I missed probably the fact. How did you specify the pages to be watched?
So that's done with the watchlist conditions interface. There you specify, well, a category, a namespace, or a concept. So all pages that match that you will watch when you watch the condition. And then you also specify the properties you care about.
So this is basically watch everything that in this category.
Yes, here you will watch these properties in category meetings.
So one of these property changes, you will get an email.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to understand exact logic here. Like, how can I say I want to watch the meeting that, for example, has attendees of someone, then I want to get notification when they have location change, for example. Can I do that right now? Or?
Yes.
Are you saying only meetings that have a specific attendee?
Right.
Yeah, you can do that with the concept.
Okay. I see.
Yes?
So you said earlier that you or your client had some requirements that weren't met by the query approach that's taken in the semantic notifications extension. Because the semantic notifications extension does a lot of this. So I'm trying to figure out what was the reason you didn't either reuse that extension or just take the same kind of query approach, which gives you this maybe more flexible set of conditions under which to alert on.
Well, I don't think it gives you that much extra flexibility, especially if you can have a concept. And I think it's also fundamentally not really nice to go compare the result of queries on some interval and then determine the changes on that. I think it's a lot nicer to just, when somebody changes something, look if they actually change the data and then store that, which is what this extension does.
As opposed to a periodic running of a query.
Yes, I mean, I also don't. One thing I was worried about with that approach is that you might run into performance issues. I mean, it's a lot more expensive, especially on big queries, I would imagine, to do that.
If you're running them, say twice a day, it's not significant.
Yes, but in that case, you don't get the notification immediately, and people will actually be able to vandalize. And well, if they know the interval at which you do it, you can even imagine people write scripts that like vandalize something and then put it back correctly when you run the query and then put it back. So
I admit that possibility.
Very likely.
Yes, I absolutely admit that possibility.
yes.
Do you, maybe this is a bit outside the scope of this extension, but I could imagine that it would also be nice to not to notify, but to highlight things that changed since I last visited the page. So basically, when I look at the page for the meeting, I see all the things that have changed since my last visit. But something like that. I mean, in the back of my head, I have something like being able to see. Okay, no. One thing about just including data from other pages is that I watch the page and I get notified when the page changes, but I don't get notified when the data changes that is on the page. So this kind of transitive notification or alerting about changes is something that I'm kind of looking for. So highlighting would be one way. Another way would be if I watch the page, I also get notified when the data on the page changes, something like that. Sorry, if I'm a bit blurry.
Yes, I understand what you want to do. I would indeed say this is outside of the scope of this extension and also not really easily doable with. It would not be easy to put this on top of the extension because right now it only keeps track of actual changes at least one person cares about, and will only change the save the change. It does not store a full history of your semantic data in your wiki. That's also a possibility to do. I've actually sort of discussed that with Jeroen a bit. Having such a thing would also enable to do like more fancy diffs, which is not really possible at the moment. Yeah. I think actually creating a new extension for that just keeps track of all your semantic data and then easily allows other tools to like use that would be the best approach there. Yes.
I was wondering about the technical implementation. Does this mean that every time someone makes an edit, you run all the queries to see if something has changed?
No. When somebody makes an edit, what it does is the semantic data gets saved in the page save hook, and there you basically get a semantic data object which holds all the new semantic data that's about to be saved. And at that point, I run a query that gets the current semantic data, and I just compare that and then save that if there are changes. Well, save the changes if there are any.
So if I create a new meeting, I still you do need to check if there are any queries for meetings, right? So every time I create a page, we need to check if this page would be in the result set of one of the.
Oh, like that. Yes. Yeah, indeed.
So on any edit that anyone does, you need to run your queries basically always.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the exact thing just mentioned that.
But the thing is only done if there are actually changes to your semantic data. I mean, you don't need to run both queries every time. So yeah, I definitely paid attention to not doing queries that are not needed because yeah, it's every page save that you need to check for it. So it will be.
So it can spam a lot of people by changing the template, for example, from s.date to s.dat. Because in this case, I get like in all of the conferences, they will lose this property, and I will get 100 emails of how many conferences I have.
I guess so. Yes. I mean, like I said, it's a beta, and this is one of the things that could be niceified in successive versions.
So
Yes.
would it be possible to have the watch list page included in another wiki page? To create, let's say, a wiki page with a social stream like in LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that?
Well, you can make special pages embeddable in wiki pages very easily, but this might not be the nicest approach to doing a wiki. I mean, if you want to like create a nice fancy widget, then basically what you want to do is, well, write up some JavaScript or whatever, You can even use like the widget extension for Minarity if you know it for that. And then get the data via the API. You can get all the data you care about via the API.
Okay, because I used semantic history extension for that for a while, but this is expensive in saving pages, so maybe this is a better approach for getting the same result.
Yes, I'm not familiar with the details of this extension, so I can't really say. Any more questions? Okay, thanks.